Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today, we are dipping our toes into an unknown realm. We are reading our first manga, and as you can tell from John's weird noises, that we're doing a Dragon Ball comic or Dragon Ball manga. But this is not your average Dragon Ball manga. And well, don't worry, everybody. If you've never read Dragon Ball or watch Dragon Ball Z or any of that stuff, we will try to explain enough so you will understand it. But this is called Dragon Ball That Time I Got Reincarnated as Yamcha. Yamcha is the name of a character, and he is a character that always dies first in every fight in Dragon Ball, or at least in Dragon Ball Z. In Dragon Ball, he's kind of on par with everybody powers-wise, but he is soon outclassed and then has no point to being around after a while.
Long story short, he's one of the actually only humans there's a fighter in the story.
Right.
And so being a human, his power only goes so far. So everybody else, all of their powers outgrow his very quickly, and he quickly becomes oh, okay, well, I'll fight too, and then he dies.
Yeah. So for those of you who this is I guess we'll call this like a parody, or is that what you would call this? It's definitely a comedy. It's supposed to be like for someone who loves Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z and that franchise. This is like a what if story that's hilarious that I would recommend to anybody who's ever watched Dragon Ball and likes it or watched Dragon Ball Z. And for those of you who don't know, the Dragon Ball is the original one. It's kind of like when we follow this character named Goku, who's young. He's like a little kid in that one. Then Dragon Ball Z is him as an adult. And then Dragon Ball Super is what's going on right now, and that's kind of him as still an adult. But
yeah, we'll say Dragon Ball Z is like late teens to like becoming an adult, and then
is he teens in that?
I think he's supposed to be like 19, 20 at the very beginning. Yeah.
Okay, well, he's married at the beginning of that one. So.
You get married young.
Okay, you can get married young, sure. But yeah, it's basically him like in his young adulthood, and then Super is him in his more 30s, 40s. Yeah. So. But it's kind of like a manga and it's also a very big anime series that was very big on like Toonami in the 90s and stuff, and that's how I got into it. That's how you got into it.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And so to read this comic and kind of appreciate it, you definitely need to know, or at least have watched a good chunk of Dragon Ball Z, mostly Dragon Ball Z, and then there's a couple things from Dragon Ball, but it's not that important. But Dragon Ball Z is where most of this takes place in. So for sure, that is like the only downside to this book is you would have to read it or know or have watched the series and remember it.
For it to be
as funny as it is. Yeah. So or like to fully get the comedy in it. So it says that this is based on the Dragon Ball comic by Akira Toriyama. Akira Toriyama. And then, but this story the story and art is by a dude named Dragon Garo
Lee.
So I'm guessing that's maybe his pen name or something, but, or their pen name. But, it's basically just a big fan, love, comic to Dragon Ball. So, I could see me and you writing something like this, or what you just have to be a big fan enough to.
I mean, he's a solid artist too, because it looks really close to the.
Yeah.
If not,
I was wondering if he traced it or whatever, or someone, because the original stuff. I mean, Akira Toriyama has a pretty unique style, and then his style is close, but it's different. And then when he gets into the Dragon Ball, because like we said, he gets reincarnated as Yamcha, the character, so he's actually in like the Dragon Ball comics. He's all the not animation, but all the drawings look like Dragon Ball comics. So it's pretty interesting. But we'll give a little backstory on Yamcha. Yamcha is a character, like we said, he is a human in the Dragon Ball universe.
Starts out as a thief, and he has a little cat character that is his partner in crime.
Yeah, and then they he's like a strong human at first, but then, like we said, the main character Goku, who is an alien from another planet who landed on Earth,
that looks like a human.
Yeah, he looks like a human, but he's got a tail. Goku is someone who can power up and level up way faster than everybody else. So Goku trains, and he's like a 5-year-old, and he gets much more powerful than like any human could be very fast. So Yamcha in Dragon Ball is kind of equal to him, at least at the beginning, and then he's like, oh, I must train to get stronger than this little kid. And then he trains like a bunch, and then in Dragon Ball he ends up losing in the tournaments and stuff. But then in Dragon Ball Z, he's basically useless. His only part there is to be like Bulma's boyfriend.
Pretty much. To put this in perspective, if you're a collector of Funko Pops, they made, and they do like the most popular characters usually from series, and they made a Funko Pop of him because he's a main character for a bit.
Yeah.
But they also made a special Funko Pop of him
dead.
That's dead.
Because the joke is whenever whenever people are going to fight, it's always like the group of good guys squaring off the group of bad guys. And the first guy to fight is Yamcha. He's like, don't worry, guys. I'll take this.
I got this.
I got it. And then he instantly dies because he fucking sucks. And he's like he's not bad. He's just a human. And everybody else is like on an elevated level. They're all aliens that can, and when we say aliens, they all look like humans, but they're alien.
Yeah, for the most part. There's a green character too, Piccolo.
Yeah, Piccolo, but whatever. So, so it's kind of a running joke in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z and everything that Yamcha is kind of useless, and he's literally there just to be Bulma's boyfriend, or like what she's looking for in a boyfriend, until another character, Vegeta, comes in to play, and then she like marries that guy. So he's even like later, he's passed over way later than in the comics. So he's not even important, within a couple, I'd say, I don't know, the first third. Or once she meets Vegeta, then it's like, okay.
Pretty much. Well, Bulma goes for the bad boy, and so like he
was the bad boy.
He's kind of a bad boy, like a thief, and like he eventually helps out Goku and Bulma on their stuff in Dragon Ball, and then Dragon Ball Z, like he's a friend and Bulma's boyfriend. But then as soon as someone bigger and badder comes along, who also then becomes not a bad person as far as like an evil character, then
yeah. So, with that said, there's a little history on Dragon Ball to catch you guys up who haven't watched the show or read the manga. So this starts off in our world. I'm assuming it's regular, human world. There's two friends, and they're like, "Oh my god, did you hear about this Dragon Ball event that's gonna happen? We have to go." And like, but we got to invite people. And they're like, "Oh, we should invite girls." And they're like, "Yeah, girls." And these guys are obviously nerds.
Yeah, they're like they probably look like high school age.
Yeah, and they're definitely like, man, it'd be great to find a girl who likes Dragon Ball. She'd be the perfect girl. And so it's kind of like ridiculous. And then they're walking on this bridge, and they see a girl walk underneath them, and they're like, oh my god, it's super windy. That girl's got a short skirt on. We should like check this out because we're totally gonna be able to see her skirt blow up or whatever. So kind of pervy, but this kind of, just so you all know, manga's got a little bit of this going on in it.
Yeah, that's
it's fairly normal for this kind of thing to happen where there's like pervy high school kids or whatever. So
that seems kind of like part of that, like in the manga form, part of that, like. Okay, that's always kind of a underlying part of a story.
Yeah, let's just say
character
in
like
an American comic, this would not be like culturally acceptable, probably, unless they were bad kids or something. But in manga, this is more culturally acceptable for just that could be the beginning of a story for your main characters that you're supposed to be like, oh my god, that girl's underwear is showing or whatever. Let's see if we can get closer. Or whatever. Yeah. So, but I appreciated this. I thought this was funny. So the main kid that's like, I guess the most geeky looking, is like, oh my god, I got to get a closer look. So he runs down the stairs of this, it's kind of like an overpass bridge from like a street. So he runs down the stairs, and as he's running, he's like, he just fucking twists his ankle. it's like slap, like his ankle totally blew out, and then like falls down 40 stairs or whatever, and then they're like, "Are you all right? Hey."
And it goes blank.
Yeah, and then it's like black, and then he wakes up and he's Yamcha in Dragon Ball, and he's like, "Wait, what? Where am I?" And he doesn't have a mirror or anything, so he can't see what's going on. And then he kind of looks down and he sees the clothes he's wearing, and he's like, "Oh my, why am I in like these Yamcha clothes or whatever?" And then he like pulls out a mirror from somewhere,
And then he does find a mirror. He's like, oh, hey, a mirror.
Somehow finds a mirror, and then he's like, "Oh my god, I'm Yamcha." And then he's like, "Wait, what happened?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I was chasing that girl with the mini skirt, and then I tripped, and now I'm dead. I must be reincarnated as Yamcha." And then he realizes, "Oh my god, I'm in like Dragon Ball era, like young Goku era, young Bulma era." And Bulma is the girl in Dragon Ball. And he's like, "Holy shit, I'm going to be like this, her like attraction, like she's going to be attracted to me. So I'm going to get to date Bulma. That's like one of my dreams or whatever." So he's like, "Oh my God, I have to like basically train because he knows everything about Dragon Ball."
Yeah.
So it'd be like if you got reincarnated in your favorite series and you've already watched it like 1,000 times.
Yeah, so you know
everything that's gonna happen. You know that in season 4 of this or whatever, like this bad guy's gonna do this. So hey, if I want that to stop, I could just kill that guy early or whatever, or train really hard and whatnot. So he's like, "Okay, I know what I have to do. I'm gonna train really hard, and then I can like stop Vegeta from going out with her, or for her falling in love with Vegeta. I can also like basically stop Vegeta in general. Like he thinks, because in Dragon Ball Z, Vegeta shows up. Vegeta is the main bad guy at the beginning. He is another one of the same race as Goku, aliens.
They're called Saiyans.
It's kind of like Invincible, where there's like this group of aliens that comes to different planets and they take over the planets and then make them part of their, either they sell them or make them part of their like empire or whatever. Yeah. So Vegeta's like, "Oh, we're going to like kill everybody on this planet and make it part and sell it, or make it part of our new Vegeta planet or whatever." And so that's like, he's the first main big bad guy that kind of comes. And so he's like, "Oh, I got to train," because Vegeta ends up becoming good and then Bulma falls for him. So if I train really hard, we could kill Vegeta instead of him living at the end of that fight in the original Dragon Ball series. And then we'll take him out, and then no worries. Then it'll all be good. Which is funny, because if you think about what happens in the rest of Dragon Ball, Vegeta is a very key character to the rest of the world not being blown up and all this stuff by, say, Trunks and other characters as like his son. And so
Vegeta's very important.
Yes, Vegeta is very important to the future of Earth, and he's just thinking, "I just want to make sure that Bulma can't fall in love with him, and he'll be with me forever." Yeah, she'll stay with me. So he's like, "You wait, like instead of me going with you like I did in the Dragon Ball series, Bulma, you stay here. I gotta go train." And he's like, "You gotta wait for me though. Wait." And so he goes with Goku to go train, and then it's like time has passed. I love this. And like new Yamcha faces his destiny, and then we see Vegeta has come to Earth. This is like skips ahead, I don't know, 10 years or something, right? Like 10 or 15 years, because Goku's like 5 years old in this.
I think so. Yeah. So he goes to train with Goku, with Master Roshi. That's how he he gets to like the strength or whatever. But then I think there's still like, it's showing that the Saiyans, then the Saiyans come.
Right, but like he's strong enough, he is trained, and like I think it's 15 years after. So like it skips 15 years ahead in Dragon Ball timeline or whatever. And that timeline, now Vegeta is here, he is the big bad, him and his
henchman.
Yeah, his henchman named Nappa. And so like we said, at the beginning of this fight in Dragon Ball Z, anybody who's watched it knows this, but Yamcha's like, "Don't worry guys, I'll take this on," and he dies fairly quickly.
Yeah, and he dies facing one of they have like little pod people that they have come out to fight for them too. They're really low powered, technically, especially compared to like the Saiyans. They're called Saiyan Man, or
Yeah,
Saiyaman.
well, I don't know what they call them in this. In America, they're called Cybermen. Or Cybermen, but in this they were called something else, or cultivars.
Cultivars, that's right.
And I was like, oh, that's a better name. I feel like it makes more sense. We cultivated them and whatever. But yeah, that was also like some of the names of people were different in this because we're used to the Dragon Ball animated show, and like Master Roshi's name, not Master Roshi's name, something else. And so that was interesting. There was some different names, but for the most part, it all made sense, and you could just kind of piece it together. But so like right away, Yamcha's like, "Don't worry, guys, I'll take care of this." And he dies, like I said, right away from one of these cultivars who are just like, men that like they plant them in the ground like little seeds, and they grow instantly into these little makeshift warriors. And there's 6 of them. And in the original one, he fights one of them, and they blow up.
Yeah, they can self-destruct.
Yeah,
and it kills him right away.
Yeah. And so they're like, "Oh shit!" And then so he takes on all 6 of these guys, and they blow up all on him. And no problem. It does that whole like boom, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's dead" or whatever. And then the smoke clears, and he's like, "No problem." Like, I got it. And it was funny because as you were reading the comic, for like a fan, you're like, "Oh, did he die?" Like, because that'd be funny if he dies.
He still died.
We find out later on that like if you die in this world, you just kind of restart at the beginning again, so you can try it over and over again. As many times as you can.
Kind of Groundhog's Day.
Yeah. And so. Basically he's like, "Oh, don't worry, everything's fine. I got this, guys," because he trained. And then and then we see he's like, we find out what actually happened, like
why he's powerful enough.
He's more powerful than he definitely should be, like even for training with Master Roshi or King Kai or anybody that he would have trained with Goku. And we find out this is something that happens way later on, but basically he
uses his knowledge of everything that happens in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z.
And he like jumps, he goes ahead, like, I don't know, to the very next the next bad guy goes into outer space on a planet. He knows where like a spaceship is that they find. He takes that to this planet that they go to way later. At that planet in the anime and in the manga, there's like this old the planet's called Namek, and the people there are called Namekians. There's like this old Namekian guru who can awaken like a hidden power inside of you.
Your hidden power.
And then
to your full potential.
So this happened way later in the Dragon Ball manga and in the Dragon Ball in the anime series. Like they're there and they're
to put it in perspective, this is like novels later and like seasons later.
Yeah. And so he's like, "Oh, I know where that spaceship is. I can just jump ahead like 4 years, get my great hidden power awakened by this guy, train with another Namekian who's super strong as well, and then that's who I am going to train with so my power level can go like super high." So when he comes back to fight these guys, this is Vegeta and Nappa, he kills the Cybermen, or they kill themselves on him, no problem. And then he takes on Nappa, no problem, and kills him. They see his power level.
Yeah, they're like,
and for reference, like it is insane. Like I think Vegeta's power level is 10,000 at this time. The Saiyans, who's Vegeta's race, they have a little scouter on their face that can read the power levels of anybody they're fighting, and everybody else is like max 1,000. And so until Goku comes later, and then he's like at like 5,000, I think, or something like that. But he can raise it depending on how angry he gets and stuff. So, but to reference, this guy scouts him right away, and he's at like level 10. It's over 10,000, which is fucking ridiculous for Yamcha. Especially at this time, that's like more than, like we said, Vegeta I think is at 30,000 or something like that. But when he's like in his final, like angry and all that shit, he can raise it.
Like when he pushes himself to the limit.
Yeah. So they're like, "Holy shit!" And so like he literally, takes on Nappa, no problem, kills him, and then it's just him and Goku now fighting Vegeta. They just cut to that. They don't even have like whatever happened in between, and so basically, In the original comic, it was just Goku versus Vegeta, but now it's them two together. And it's funny because this whole fight Yamcha's like, I'm trying to figure out how to kill Vegeta, but Goku's like, good. So he won't let me kill Vegeta. Like, I can't kill Vegeta in front of him because he'll stop being my friend or stop me somehow or whatever. So like he's trying to like kill Vegeta, and then like Goku's like, no, you mustn't. Like, we gotta let him go or whatever. So he's like torn inside. He's like, God damn it! Like, I want to just kill him, but I can't. And so it's just like this funny thing where he's trying to kill Vegeta, but he can't.
Yeah, I do like how they finish him though, because so they're still going. He's like, well, I'm gonna let Goku finish him because that's like how it should go anyway, because Goku's the savior or whatever. And so like he's like, okay, I'll distract him, Goku, while you're like powering up or whatever. And I really like what he did there, because again, he knows everything in the future. He goes so far into, he actually makes a reference to the newest Dragon Ball stuff, which is Dragon Ball Super. And there is a god character named Beerus. He's kind of like an Egyptian cat-looking character, who is also like humanoid. Anyway, but he's like, hey, is that Lord Beerus behind you?
And Vegeta's like, what? Because I didn't know that. I didn't realize that he knew that character before, but I guess it's someone he knew was super powerful in the universe.
Yeah, apparently, like that character has been around in the background a long time, like, cause like Frieza's known him. Yeah.
So, and Frieza was like the biggest, baddest character for a while, at least in the Dragon Ball universe. So, So then we see that he lets them get away, and then he's like, okay, well now we gotta figure this out. I'm gonna like jump ahead, and we gotta stop. I gotta figure out a way to stop Bulma from like going out with Vegeta.
Yeah, because figure out how I can train more, because there's even more powerful bad guys coming. There's the Frieza, there's a character named Cell, and there's a character named Majin Buu.
Yeah,
these bad guys just get progressively more and more tough for the main characters, Goku and Vegeta.
Yeah,
let alone this human.
Yamcha doesn't even show up anymore at this point.
No, I think towards like the Cell and at least the Cell. I think definitely the Buu.
The last time he shows up in the manga and in the anime is when he gets killed by the android in the android side. The first android that shows up, he's like, "Don't worry, I'll take this guy on," and it just stabs him through the chest and it murders him with his hand.
I think he gets brought back, but he doesn't. He's like,
yeah, he gets brought back, but I'm saying,
but he doesn't literally. But he doesn't like fight anymore. He's like, no, there's no.
Actually, I don't think he gets brought back, because you can only get brought back once with the Dragon Balls. I think after that he's like dead.
No, because I think that I feel like they bring back, they use the one Dragon Balls to bring back the Namekian ones, and the Namekian ones can bring them back multiple times.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm wrong.
Long story short, because I remember him being in like a suit later, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm not fighting this, anymore. Like there's no way my power level can ever compete, get up to their power levels now." So
yeah.
Which is, again, that's part of, how ridiculous.
Yeah. So this one, we skip ahead to the Cell games, which is Cell is another bad guy, just like Vegeta. Every time in Dragon Ball, there's like the next big bad guy, so the next powerful person, and Goku's always got to get more and more, training or whatever inside of him, opened up to fight and be able to beat these guys. So
Cell is like an alien android kind of character.
Yeah, and he's just the most powerful ever or whatever at this time. So he's like, I'm going to have a tournament to see who can fight me or whatever. And so while they're doing that, Yamcha's like, hold on a second. Something's weird about this other character that I know. And we basically see there's another character named Chaozu. And in Dragon Ball, he pretty much is also like kind of a useless character after a while, but he's like a fan favorite, I think. He kind of looks like a mime, little kid mime. He's like the size of a child, and he's like always innocent and stuff in the manga and in the anime. So in this, he like,
and he's just to put in perspective of the character, he also is like one of the like, because of like him being like a small childish or childlike character, he also is very much like, you can tell this character is pure of heart, right, kind of, and like he has sacrificed himself because he can also like basically explode himself, and he has sacrificed himself before 4 other characters, like,
right?
just to save them. So like he's a very much a.
So he's not even. I don't even think he's in Dragon Ball during the Cell games anyway.
I don't think so.
I think he's already gone because he died during the Vegeta saga.
Yeah,
and I don't think he showed up. I mean, Tien and Chaozu weren't in the other.
I know they can. I come, but yeah, like I definitely.
So I mean, I think Tien shows up, but I don't think Chaozu is alive at this. So Chaozu is like standing there, and Yamcha's like, "Why don't you come over here with me real quick while Cell's talking to these other guys because we're not fighting in this tournament."
There's no way
There's no way. Even with the power awakened in me, I'm not stronger than Goku now, or Vegeta, or Trunks, or any of these people. And so he's like, "What's up? Like, why'd you call me out here?" And he's like, "I know about you. You're another reincarnated person, aren't you?" And he's like, "What? Like, you're reincarnated too?" So it turns out there's another person who died apparently in our world who got reincarnated as Chaozu. And we found out that, like, basically because of the way he's acted that he figured out over time, hey, you're not acting like Chaozu from the comics that I read or the show that I watched. You have to be reincarnated too. And so
basically because Chaozu is being a little more self-centered and more like self-preservation with some of their actions. So like they didn't sacrifice himself for something that did happen before. So like, you know, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. But now he's like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and basically we find out, this is where you find out that like you can die in this world and then you just start at the beginning again. Like, so Chaozu's like, no matter how many times I died, I kept starting at the beginning, and like, you know, I'm sick of it. Basically, I'm selfish now. He collected the Dragon Balls for himself, and he's going to become the most powerful person, and then he's going to become the new bad guy, the new big bad. He's going to take over, and I guess we find out this character's name was King, and we find that out. And then why that's important is because at the beginning of the manga, the 2 boys that were talking were like, hey, I finally got like a high score on that game I've been playing. That, you know, the guy named King or whatever that was playing, you know, he got kicked off or something happened. He didn't show up today. And I finally got the high score. And that's the kid that got the high score was the one who reincarnated as Yamcha. So we find out the reason why that person disappeared, King, was because they died and got reincarnated as Chaozu. And so now they're kind of fighting. They're taking each other one-on-one. It's kind of like they're evenly matched. And but then Chaozu ends up like taking him out, like with one of his like finger beams. He can like actually use energy pretty good, and he hits Yamcha in the chest with his energy beam, and basically like they just fight each other. And then he's like, "I'm gonna become the best and the greatest," and then he ends up being able to take him out because he has these things called sensu beans that he took. Which I thought was funny. He's like, "Oh yeah, I totally know about these things." You know, obviously he's like, "Yeah, I got a whole bag of them." And sensu beans, for those of you who don't know, are these beans that you can take that restore your power right away. So you can just if you get in a fight and you take a lot of damage, you can take these beans and they go away, or you get restored right away. So yeah, he like uses these to get himself restored and recover from that shot through the chest. And then they're fighting, and you know he's got all these like things he's kept over the Dragon Ball series, like things like big important things. Like there's like this little jar that you can trap demons in and stuff. And he tries to trap Chaozu in that. But then right as he's gonna do that, that's when when Chaozu says, "No, I was once a gamer called like a super fan gamer called King," and he's like, "Wait, what?" And then it like stops the thing, and then he's like, and then like basically they like come to an understanding where it's like, then why, if you're a really big fan, then why do you want to be bad? He's like, I don't want to be bad. I just like I just got tired of dying all the time. So then that's pretty much it. Then they become like best buds, and they're like, oh yeah. That did suck, and then or that does suck to like keep dying and all that stuff.
I did like they were like, yeah, you know, we pretty much should just, you know, try to figure out what's best for us if we're gonna keep living here, because you know, there's even bigger bad guys like Majin Buu coming, and like we're both gonna die if that you know, if that doesn't. So like, let's just try to, maybe you can actually like get with Bulma and like marry her, like if you play cards right.
Yeah, who knows, you know. And then this is one of the things I thought was funny. So that character from Dragon Ball Super that we mentioned, the cat one that's like a god named Beerus. He it turns out that this whole comic is actually just a game of chess between him and another cat god. And he was playing
his brother Champa.
Yeah. So Champa and Beerus are playing they're playing like this weird chess kind of game of the reincarnation game. So like they're playing as the character of the kids that got reincarnated as Dragon Ball characters, and they're playing this game. So they're like, "What? Like, no way, Yamcha. I was stronger." And like, he's like, "No, but it's a draw. No excuses."
Yeah, no, they became friends at the end. It's a draw. So
yeah, that's how it works. And so like, it's kind of funny. It ends like that, where they're like,
So yes, and their angel counterparts are like, okay, time to send them back.
Yeah. So then the kid like, huh? It wakes up, and then it's funny because he like wakes up. He's like, oh, his friend's like, are you okay? You were like out for a while.
He's down at the end of the stairs, like he didn't go anywhere.
And then he's like, oh, I remember I was Yamcha. And then he sees the girl walking away with the short skirt, and he pulls his hand up like Yamcha has this move where he can and make the wind blow really hard, and he like puts his hand up and he does it, and the wind blows up and it almost blows up her skirt. She holds it down in the front, but I think maybe he saw her underwear in the back or something, and then he's like, I can't believe it. It was real or whatever kind of thing. Like he knows it was real. Then he tries to do it again and nothing happens. And he's like, and his friend's like, for a second there, I thought you did that. And he's like, yeah, it's not like this is Dragon Ball or whatever, but yeah, it was. And then that's like the end of it, but then it's not the end of it because
bonus story.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of bonus stories. The first bonus story is when we see Yamcha's like training with Master Roshi, and he's like, oh, like I want to, now that I'm strong, I'm gonna go try to like ask Bulma out, and they're like, no, like you're gonna go like that, like you've been training, you're all smelly, and you're wearing your fucking gi and stuff. Like Bulma's a sophisticated woman now, like you gotta wear nice clothes and stuff. So he's like, oh, of course, and he goes to like buy a suit, gets it on, makes it look all nice.
Gets his haircut.
He even like runs into a hostage situation where like he saves a bunch of people in a town that were bank robbers. They look like the Beagle Boys. So they got the like old striped prison uniforms on, and these prisoners that I guess escaped prison, have a hostage, and he saves this girl from these bad guys, and then he flies off to go talk to Bulma, and he's like, this is going to be great. Like, I think I got a shot. And then he gets there, and it's like right when Vegeta started training in the gravity room in her house. So
it's
that he
right when Bulma was like, oh, maybe there's something about this Vegeta character.
Yeah, like he's so annoying, but also look at those abs, because he's like training so hard or whatever. And then he shows up, and he sees Bulma kind of like talking to Vegeta after he's training, and he's like, shut up, woman. And like Vegeta like literally treats her like shit, which is funny that she's so like, maybe he likes me.
Maybe
he treats me so bad or whatever. And Vegeta's like, God, women are so stupid. and yeah, he's not a very nuanced person. And then, she wears him down basically so that he agrees to date with her, and then he starts to soften after the fact that they're dating. And it's actually after he finds out that Trunks is his son. So he's like, wait, I have a son with Bulma, which means we get together on some level and I agree to it. So maybe that's what changes his mind about Bulma. The fact that they have a son in the future.
Yeah.
Which is weird because you're like, wait, which came first? Like, did knowing Trunks cause it to happen, or and how did that make sense?
I know.
So yeah,
Time
it's
paradox.
a little weird thing. But basically, he sees Vegeta, and he's like, I'm gonna fight Vegeta, basically. And so he goes out and he's like, how about a fight, Vegeta? Let's see if we can if I can beat you up. And then Vegeta, he's like, what? He like flies at Vegeta, and Vegeta's just like, you're not worthy of my time. And then
one punch to the face.
One punch, he knocks him out, and he's like, oh my God. He's like, Vegeta, take good care of Bulma. Because there's no way. Now he knows there's no way I'm going to beat Vegeta. Like, this was the point before he's really fully trained in that like 100 times gravity and gotten Super Saiyan and everything. This is when he would be able to beat Vegeta. Maybe no, he still couldn't beat him. So yeah, he loses that, which I thought was funny. And then the second, there's a second bonus in here, and this was the funniest thing I thought. So this takes place right as him and Chaozu became friends. They decided, hey, I'm not going to become an evil character. We're both reincarnated folks. Let's try to make the best of this. And like, hey, I got an idea. Like to keep ourselves relevant in this whole like, upping of power levels. Maybe we should we should try fusion. And fusion is when two characters in Dragon Ball who are really strong fuse themselves together by doing this little dance thing. And it makes you like one stronger being. So it's like
it morphs not only your powers, but then like you become one person, and like it physically takes traits from both of you and makes a new character. Like they don't look like it doesn't look like a golem or anything. It looks like another person,
but
with traits like of one or a little more of the other or something.
Right. Well, like for instance, you got Goku and Vegeta. Vegeta's got a really noticeable, like a very distinct widow's peak. So when they become Vegito or Vegito, it becomes like the hairline is definitely, you can see it's Goku's hair, but with the hairline of, they get traits of each other, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So now, like we said, Chaozu looks like a child
and a mime,
like a
white face, got the big red
bald
cheeks.
Yeah, big red cheeks, and he's also like 3 feet tall, and Yamcha is like a normal human. So he's got like this fine ass ponytail.
Yeah, he's got long mane of hair.
Yeah, and so they're like, we should try fusion. They're like, wait, how is that possible? We're not the same size or anything. We can't just do that dance. And he's like, oh, I know. Later on, Bulma, like later on in the manga, Bulma comes up with like a way to fuse through like technology. So like we'll just go tell her to make these fusion bracelets, and then she'll do it. And then and they do a joke where they go there, they tell her, hey, this is what fusion is. Can you make a bracelet? This is how we think it should be done. And then it's like 2 minutes later. And then like she comes up with it because she's like a genius, and she's like a tech genius. So ahead of their time.
Yes.
While she is also the pervy, like the point of the pervy men in Dragon Ball.
She also is
she's also a very strong, independent, and smart woman. So that was good.
Yeah. And to be fair, she also chases down Vegeta. It's not the other way around.
She wears him down.
Yeah.
So while he's like, stupid woman, and she's like, Vegeta and her relationship is one of the funnier,
it is
messed up things,
and especially as they gets older, because so Vegeta, Bulma's still a human and she's not a fighter or whatever, unmatched. But like, if she is like stern or serious about something, like Vegeta definitely is like, okay, like later on, he's obviously like, yes, I understand, like, whatever you say, honey. And then there's like there'll be like the god characters, like Beerus at one point is like around, and she like basically talks down to this god character, and Vegeta's like, whoa. And Bulma is gets so pissed off at it that he even scares Beerus a little.
Oh, wow.
Oh, whoa, okay.
That's funny. So, but the funniest thing about this was like the funniest thing for sure was, so they do their fusion with these new bracelets that allow them to fuse even though they're not of the same size or power levels and all this stuff. And they're like, ta-da! And it like, basically it looks like a super buff, but balding Yamcha. Like he's got the cheeks. He's got the cheeks of Chaozu, but he's balding like Chaozu, and he's got like the super weird ponytail, like the lower part of hair of Yamcha, but like if you made Yamcha bald, it's hysterical. Hilarious. And he's like, and the cool thing about this is, or the funny thing is, usually when there's two fusion characters or two characters fuse, they look cooler, and so he's like, cool, I gotta see what we look like. It's gonna be awesome. And then he pulls out a mirror and he looks at himself and he's like, oh my God. And then it just shows them and they're like, let's give up on fusion. And like, agreed. It was a bad idea all around. And so it was just funny. Like they could have been super strong or at least competed, but they're like, nah, we don't want to go out on the battlefield
looking like this. Yeah, they're talking. They're like, what should our name be? Yaozu or Chow Chow? We're going to be so badass.
It's going to be amazing. And so, yeah, that was pretty funny. That was pretty much it. I enjoyed it. There's another little mini comic about how he gets the job. This, like, how the author got this job for like this little 3-part mini series, which is pretty cute as well. And I find that in manga they do this a lot. There's like little, like there'll be the main story and then like little side fun things.
Here's something I wanted to do, but it didn't fit to the story,
which never happens in American comics. So I can kind of appreciate that. Also, you would never get like there would never be like how I got reincarnated as Batman. You know what I mean? Like you could never do that because they would never allow it. Like, I mean, unless DC was doing a fun what if or something.
I was like, if they were doing a what, or was it Elseworlds in DC, right?
Yeah, but all the else, like,
but even
especially
still.
in DC, it's pretty serious.
Yeah, I was like,
all the Elseworlds are like fucked up. Or
the what ifs in Marvel, like they have some goofy, funny ones. And
I appreciate those. But.
You know, and saying that too, it makes me think because like I know they're technically different universes now for Marvel or whatever, but like they have like the ape Avengers and like the animal Avengers in general,
pig Avengers,
and like the pig adventures of
Peter
Spider
Porker,
Peter Porker. So like it feels like something that they could do, but
they could definitely do what ifs like that for sure. I mean, like there's like what if Conan the Barbarian was in the 70s, and like it's a great cover because. It's one of my favorite covers, but it's Conan with his helmet on and everything, but he's got a fucking dirty, hairy gun, and he's like, "Make my day."
I have never seen that cover. That's
I have.
amazing.
I own it. I'll show you it after this.
That sounds amazing.
It's fucking fantastic. So there's some really good like what ifs in Marvel that are fun, and I kind of wish like the especially like DC because they're a little bit more serious than Marvel. It'd be fun if they had kind of like a breather every now and then where they did some funny stories or whatever, and. Had like little tongue-in-cheek stuff like this because it was really fun to read this, especially as a big of a fan of Dragon Ball Z as I am and Dragon Ball in general. Like I was like, oh my God, I know all of these jokes. They all land perfectly. It's fantastic, you know. And so,
oh yeah, it was a quick read for in the background.
Yeah, this was like,
and then with every twist that the Yamcha character makes, it was like, oh whoa, that's cool. Oh whoa, that's funny.
Yeah.
Like it was great.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. What did you think? Or first off, is there anything else I missed that you wanted to hit?
No, I think you hit all the major points.
All right, so what did you think of this one overall, John?
Yeah, I mean, for my first real like for the podcast at least, sit down reading a manga, reading the opposite way that I'm not used to. That took a minute to get used to, and especially because we were reading it digitally.
Oh yeah, you got to read it backward.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was interesting because like I assumed that it would still like format it for me to click like normally, as far as like when I open up a comic, and then it was like, oh no, it luckily gave me the note. He's like, oh, because of this, we formatted this also to read it that way. So I was like, oh, got to click left and like read left to right, and
yeah, it is a little bit of a mind trip when I got to read right to left, top to bottom. So that's kind of like the reverse of how you normally do. So, but I mean, once you get used to it.
Yeah, no. After like 3 pages, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, what would you give this one, John?
I mean, I don't, because it's such a niche.
Yeah, it is very specific.
This one's very so specific. I don't, because like I loved this story. It was.
How about you give us a rating if it? I mean, obviously it's going to be low if you've never watched Dragon Ball, but just think of it like. If you have read Dragon Ball or you've watched Dragon Ball Z or whatever, and you're fairly well versed in it, that's what you're rated as. Like,
I would give it an 8. Like it was
okay.
It was funny. The art is wonderful. It's a quick read. It's a concise story. Pretty much the jumps around don't really. There's a couple panels every once in a while that did feel out of place, but I realized it was just like a little like, oh, this, it would probably this happened too during that.
Yeah, I think it's like a spoiler or something. Or
yeah,
like. Yeah, or like a little like, oh, this happened, but we didn't put that in kind of thing.
Yeah.
I felt like that manga does that a lot. There'll be like a panel at the end of the chapter that's something that's like either foreboding or something funny that they wanted to throw in or, so they did that on this and I got confused for a second a couple times, but then I was like, oh yeah, it's not part of that story that we just read. So, so you're gonna give it an 8. I'm gonna give this one. I don't know. I'm gonna give this one an 8 too for originality. You know why? Because I don't think I've ever read anything like this, quite as funny as this and interesting. I'm a big Dragon Ball fan, so I got every fucking joke in this, and I knew all the references, and it just made me smile. I literally like laughed out loud a couple times when they had the fusion version of them. I fucking was guffawing because it looks so funny, and yeah, it hit me perfect. So I'm gonna give this one an 8 too, and then. Like we said, if you haven't read Dragon Ball, that's probably the biggest thing for this. Like you wouldn't get any of the jokes, so I wouldn't recommend this to anybody who hasn't read or watched Dragon Ball.
I would say at least watch, because like if you've watched the show, like luckily, I have seen bits and pieces of Dragon Ball manga. I had friends that had like all of it, so I don't think I ever read one, but they'd be like, oh, look at this like read these couple pages. This is different from what you saw before, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, like.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've read most of the up through Dragon Ball, from Dragon Ball Volume 1 up to like the middle of the Cell Saga in Dragon Ball Z. So, I mean, there's basically Dragon Ball Kai, if you've watched those, which are like the shortened version.
The abridged version.
Yeah, the abridged version of the Dragon Ball TV show and Dragon Ball Z TV show. So, but if you grew up watching the Dragon Ball show and you know who Vegeta is, you remember that saga, you remember the Piccolo, or the I guess it would be the Frieza saga, the on Namek, and then the Cell saga. Everything in this book takes place for the most part, during Dragon Ball Z, and the stuff from Dragon Ball is literally like the very first couple pages.
Yeah, it's just a couple.
So it's not important. So, or it's not important to have read that. You still know the characters, so it's not like you don't know who they are. So yeah, that's the only downside to this book is if you haven't read any of it or watched any Dragon Ball Z, you'd be like, wait, what? I don't know any of this. So.
This manga makes me specifically want to like not reach out, but I want to like see if like there are other like because like there are other little characters that are like, oh, it'd be cool if there was like a what if so and so did, like there's another Dragon Ball character like Emperor Pilaf. He's like one of the bad guys, and he's not really.
He's in Dragon Ball.
He's in Dragon Ball, but he's not really like a very powerful or intimidating villain. But I like him. He's so overconfident and he's small in stature as well, kind of like Chaozu. That it's like, oh, it'd be fun if they like did one where like he actually gets to do one of his wishes for Dragon Balls and like become powerful or whatever, like little things like that.
Yeah.
Reading this was like, oh. I never knew I wanted this kind of a story, but now I want to know if there's more. Do.
Now this guy needs to make some more of these what ifs or whatever.
Yeah.
And it would be fun. But yeah, I mean, if you've read Dragon Ball, I would say this is an 8. Or if you've watched Dragon Ball Z, I should say. I would say this is an 8, and you give it an 8 as well. So we should also say this is a fucking shout out to one of our buddies that we've recently, this buddy podcast of ours that we've recently been talking to, named Otakuology. Our buddies Mike and Jin over there that do that podcast. Mike specifically reached out and recommended a bunch of different mangas because we had requested on the Scott Pilgrim episode. We said, oh, if anyone's out there that has any manga that's kind of easy to be reviewed in like either one volume or a couple volumes, let us know. And he recommended a bunch, and this was one of them. So thank you, Mike, for the recommendations on that. Everybody should go, if you like manga or you want to get into manga or fan stuff, because they talk about other series and stuff as well.
Yeah, they're doing
comics in general.
They're doing a thing on Invincible too. Matt reviewed the first couple, but they've already been like digging into the Invincible now too. So.
Yeah, they're doing. He's doing issue podcast, kind of like my Swamp Thing stuff.
Yeah,
on Invincible, Mike is, and then they do other reviews on manga. They also talk about just like collecting in general, like how do you separate collecting life from family life and stuff like that, or just real things you might run into as a fan or collector. Like, what do you do with all your toys?
Yeah, that was one of the we did a. They interviewed.
Actually, this year, this week, in honor of the first manga we did, and because it was a recommendation from them, we did an interview with them that they already released on their podcast. We're going to put it out this week for in our podcast. So be on the lookout for that. You get to, I don't know if you guys care, but they do like all our, a whole history of us and everything, and
Yeah, in case you want to know. And then they ask us like some things like that, like they talk about on their podcast. So that was kind of fun to like branch out a little bit from ours too, because like they asked us like collecting, because obviously we're nerds, so like we probably collect some stuff too. We probably do some other stuff than just comics too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So very cool podcast.
Be on the lookout.
Nice guys. I'm enjoying talking to them and having some fellow nerds to talk to. So check out their podcast Otakuology, and it's also on
YouTube.
On YouTube as well. And then I believe Mike has Otaku Mike as his own YouTube channel where he reviews manga and whatnot. And Jin also has a channel as well on YouTube. So go check them out. And next time, I'm very excited. We're going to read The Question, Volume 1. We're going to start.
The what?
The Question.
What question?
Who's on first?
What's on second?
So the character of The Question was a Steve Ditko creation in the 60s. DC bought it or got licensed to it in the 80s, and after Crisis on Infinite Earths, that's one of the worlds they incorporated into their fold. So we get like characters like Blue Beetle, The Question, Captain Atom from the Charlton universe.
I'm excited because I know this is one of your absolute favorites.
The Question is one of my absolute favorites.
This is Swamp Thing, Constantine, Question, maybe Booster Gold and Blue Beetle.
Yeah, they're close second.
Top 5.
Yeah. So, for sure, this is going to be one of my favorites, but we'll see how John likes it, see how he takes to the character.
You kind of compared him to Rorschach, right? A little bit.
Well, yeah, okay, so The Question was created in the 60s, and then I guess originally Alan Moore wanted to use The Question and all the Charlton characters when DC got the rights to them to be the Watchman. So that's why Rorschach was going to be The Question, Blue Beetle was going to be Owlman. Captain Atom was going to be, what's his name?
Dr. Manhattan.
Dr. Manhattan. Thank you.
That makes sense.
And then
they were like, no.
And they were like, no, we just got these. Like, we don't want to burn them or whatever. Whatever you're going to do with them, we don't want you to like fuck them up or whatever, I guess. So he changed all of them and kind of changed them around a bit. Maybe that's what the characters would have changed into, on their own with his guidance or whatever, like Rorschach, or The Question would have been more Rorschach. But what they ended up doing was they had Denny O'Neil, who tried and true Batman writer, great writer in general. They were like, here's a new character, write a thing. Steve Ditko did him before. Change him up a bit, or not change him up a bit, but put a new spin on him, kind of thing. And so this is a new take on The Question from his Steve Ditko roots, where Steve Ditko was a big fan of like Ayn Rand and stuff like that. So originally the character was a lot more rigid and black and white. And in this, I dig the original like Question a lot, but this take on him to me is just him like expanding on that. Like, so yes, it's funny because I think you'll see, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's some right away. It's like, all right, that old stuff you knew, well, here's the new stuff or whatever. So like first issue, I think has like an eye-opening experience for The Question or whatever. It's very cool to see his take on it, and I enjoyed this whole run. It's 36 issues, like the whole run of it. So we're gonna read what's consisted in the first volume, but we don't have the first volume because it's completely out of print. Thanks DC for keeping that in print. And so we're actually reading the issues individually on Comixology. And so we're going to, if you're reading them in issues, volume 1 consists of 1 through 6. So just read 1 through 6. Or if you just want to hear us spoil the fuck out of The Question for you, you can just wait till next week. So hope you guys like this episode. And if you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word, at gmail.com.
And don't forget about our Twitter, our Instagram, and YouTube channel for exclusive content. Got some stuff in the pipeline coming down for real this time.
We've been working on it.
We've been working, yeah.
It's sometimes a little hard with our full-time jobs and whatnot to get everything going as fast as we want, but we have recently picked up a new editor that's helping us out with some of our YouTube stuff. So we're going to see some more content on that. And then, like we said, This week we're going to be releasing a little interview that we had with our friend podcast Otakuology. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll see you on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.